Rebuilds in Football Manager seem to be the in thing at the moment, and having last week done my top 5 teams to manage, I thought today we'd do 5 teams to rebuild in Football Manager 2023. If you enjoyed this video, do drop a like on it. If this video gets to 3,000 likes, maybe we'll do a part 2 with even more teams. There's going to be teams you haven't even heard of, but definitely might be interested in rebuilding. Definitely might be. Yeah, that is an oxymoron. I'm an oxymoron. Shall we get into things? Let's do it. Still not bought FM23? I've got some good news for you. I've teamed up with Sega-approved retailer Fanatical to get you an amazing deal on the game that is 29% cheaper than on Steam. Check out the link in the description to find out more info. Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, Huddersfield Town? All 3 of these teams have something in common. They have won the top flight of English football 3 times in a row. Now, granted, Huddersfield Town did it back in the 1920s, but they did it nevertheless, and we're coming up to the 100th year anniversary of this achievement. And with that in mind, and their recent history, I think they're a really interesting team to try and build up in FM this year. The Championship is one of the most competitive leagues in world football. It's a league that has the prestige and challenge of teams desperately investing to try and hit the summit, to try and get to the Premier League, secure that golden goose. And as a result of all that investment that's come into this division, it's become an absolute slugfest of teams battling out through the playoffs, through automatic promotion spots for a shot at the big time. And well, last year, Huddersfield, they finished 3rd. They finished 1 place away from that automatic promotion spot, but fell short in the playoffs. And this was their 3rd season following their previous relegation from the Premier League. And what does that mean? Well, it means the parachute payments, they're not coming in anymore. Now, a lot of teams spend beyond their means and invest a lot of money for that shot at promotion. Huddersfield, not an exception. But with this year just gone, they've had to recalibrate. They've had to reset a little bit. And as a result, despite spending £2.6 million, they did have to sell 2 key players in Toffolo and O'Brien for a combined £10 million to help out financially. And despite those sales of some fairly significant first-team players, the reality is you only start with £2.2 million in the bank. A transfer budget, well, what transfer budget? There is no money to spend. And in terms of wage budget, you are right on the very threshold. You do not have money to spend year 1 without trying to turn over some players. Now, when it comes to your squad, you've actually got a pretty interesting side. It is not a small team by any means. Lots of players loaned out. Lots of players you could potentially look to cash in on in the near future. Some players with some great potential. Some players with some good current ability as well. Jonathan Hogg, the pick of the bunch. But at 33 years old, he's not going to be around for too long. I realise that phrasing makes it sound like he's going to die or something. No, he'll probably just retire. Like, he's 33. He'll still be around, just not in a footballing sense. You know what I mean. When it comes to the 5-year plan for the club, year 1, the board are realistic. They want a top half finish in the Championship. Despite finishing 3rd last year, this squad is weaker this time around. That said, longer term, within the next 5 years, they want automatic promotion back to the Premier League. And if you were able to get promotion in those 5 years and stay up, you'd be back in the big time to mark the 100-year anniversary of Huddersfield's back-to-back-to-back English top flight run. The supporter influence on the board at Huddersfield is pretty significant, but the good news for you is at least year 1, their ambitions aren't too lofty. They want you to establish yourself as a Championship club, and given the fact that your media prediction is 8th season 1, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility to challenge for the playoffs in your first season in charge. Nevertheless, having come so close last year to getting promoted to the Premier League, and with no more parachute payments, Huddersfield Town are a team in transition. And for that reason, ahead of the 100-year anniversary of their crazy achievement of 3 titles in a row, I think they're a great team to rebuild in FM23. I feel like there's a trend with teams in this list, clubs that have had a lot of success, some of it more recent than others, but ultimately, over the last few years, have struggled. And Lyon, I think, kind of fall into that category. Last year, they finished 8th. Last year, they missed out on European football. Before the more modern era of PSG dominance in France, it's easy to forget that Lyon won 7 titles in a row in the early noughties. They are a team who are right at the very top, but as of late, as you can tell by their recent position graph, things haven't exactly gone to plan. Late in the transfer window in real life, they sold one of their key players in Lucas Paqueta to West Ham for £37 million. And as a result of that, there's money in the bank. There's not a whole lot of that to spend though year one. I feel like the Lyon squad for the most part was constructed with European football in mind, and as a result of that, managing playing time and expectations year one is going to be challenging. On top of that, players are on fairly significant money, and without the extra European money to keep you afloat, despite having all this money in the bank, it is going to vanish rather quickly year one. Similarly to Huddersfield previously, the Lyon fans have high influence on the board, and the fans themselves, they have their own ideas for how the club should be run. They want youth players to be developed, you to play attacking football, to forge a higher reputation beyond that of Marseille, and on top of all of that, year one, they want Champions League football. Now, just as a reminder, only the top 3 teams in Ligue 1 get Champions League football due to the coefficient dropping, but Lyon predicted to finish 3rd year one, and given the fact that you do have a really good squad without continental football, that should be more than achievable. The board's expectations are to be best of the rest, of course, the rest being PSG, who, let's be honest, at least to start things, are going to be light years ahead. That said, with your good youth recruitment, great facilities, and some good young players, Ryan Cherky perhaps the pick of the bunch, you have got the potential to develop a squad that longer term can challenge PSG. It's not going to be easy, it's going to be a long road to get there, but with that in mind, I think it makes Lyon a really interesting save to kick off your FM23 adventures with. It's not going to be a 20, 30 year long save, but if you're looking for a short-term challenge, you want to be able to develop some young players for your own academy, I think they're a rather interesting team to rebuild and hopefully get back on the straight and narrow after, let's be honest, some pretty disappointing years as of late. Coming in at number 3, we are heading away from Europe and to South America, to Cruzeiro. And I know what you're thinking as you look at their club profile. Jack, loan debt of 164 million. Surely that's a typo. It's not. Having won the Brazilian National Championship twice in the last 10 years, a couple of years ago they were relegated. Their club president, he was arrested for corruption charges. The club were declared bankrupt, and as a result, they struggled. Relegated, and last year, they finished 14th in the Brazilian second division, just 5 points ahead of the relegation zone. In 2021, however, the club got a new owner. They were bought out, and no longer did they follow a Socios model. Instead, they became the first club in Brazil to have an owner. They own 90% of it. I know what you're thinking, Jack. Who's the owner? It's Brazilian Ronaldo, the man who started his career at Cruzeiro, and now he's trying to get them back to the big time. And well, if you choose to take on this challenge, you might be wondering, Jack, what does Ronaldo want you to achieve? Well, let me tell you, he wants you to win promotion immediately back to the Brazilian First Division. Beyond that, his ambitions are just to establish yourselves. But if you're feeling particularly punchy, I think the reality is this is a team that could make it back to the top. They are a team that could be competing for Copa Libertadores. You could be competing at that very elite level of South American football. I mentioned the debt situation. You've got £163 million of state loan debt. You're paying £675,000 of that every single month until 2041. Yeah, that's right. 19 years to pay off £160 million. The reality is you are going to be fighting hard to stay afloat. You're going to need to develop young players, sell them onto Europe for money, and kind of balance that all out with still trying to be competitive within your own national league. The good news for you, though, as Cruzeiro manager to be, is your facilities are really good. You are going to get good youth intakes in. You're going to be able to develop players to move them on, maybe to other Brazilian clubs, maybe further afield. Your hot prospect year one is Breno. Not the craziest player in the world, but he does have a lot of potential, and I think that's the name of the game with this club. This is a fallen giant. Perhaps you're going to be the person to bring this side their 3rd Libertadores title. It's going to be a long road to get there. It's not going to be simple. It's a challenging rebuild, but for that reason, is in this countdown. So coming in at number 2, we have Rook. I hope I've said that correctly. Polish viewers, let me know at home. The Polish language scares me. You guys use lots of Zs in your alphabet. It's like someone got their Z key stuck down. Anyway, I digress. Let's talk about the team at number 2. And this is a team that has some really interesting history. Now, Rook are one of the most successful teams in Polish football history. They have won the national title on 14 different occasions. And as recently as 2014, they were playing in the Europa League, having finished 3rd. But well, as the graph shows here, things over the last few years haven't been great for them. They had 3 successive relegations in a row, 3 successive years where they finished bottom of the league. They had point deductions. They've been lumbering with lots and lots of debt that they are very close to paying off. And having now got 2 promotions in a row, they find themselves playing in the Polish First Division. The club spent their 100th year, their century anniversary, down in the 4th tier of Polish football, the lowest that they've ever been. And whilst they've been on a little bit of a climb up for this season, back in the playable league in Football Manager, their league prediction is 15th. Now, 15th would put you just above the relegation zone, and that is very much where the board want you to finish year one. They want to avoid relegation and then work towards becoming an established team in the second division with a long-term aim of returning to the top flight of Polish football in just 4 years. Year one, the fans are going to be rallying behind you. This is a team that have a crazy core of fans. Thousands of people still go to their matches despite all their relegations and their recent turbulent history. The fans, they want you to stay up, but they have one other aim for you: to finish above local rivals GKS Katowice, a team predicted to finish just 1 position above you at the start of the season. Rook's top player is Tomasz Wojtowicz. I probably haven't said that correct, but I've given it a bloody good go. This man is your hot prospect, an under-21 stalwart, 18 years old, lots of potential, but you are going to have interest from a fair few teams, and he might be a player that you need to cash in on in order to invest year one. You will have a bit of transfer budget and a little wage budget, but given the fact that you've got a year or 2 left of just paying off the last little bits of debt that this club have been handling, you might need it to sell him in order to reinvest elsewhere. Their current first team only contains 20 players, including 3 in on loan. The reality is you are a club on the up. They might be the least known team on this list, but I think they're a really interesting project. Can you take Rook back to the top of Polish football? Can you win them their first league title and national title in 30 years? A great team to manage, get them back to European football, build up Poland as a nation. I think they're a rather interesting team to manage this year. Coming in at number 1, we have a team that, well, might surprise you a little bit. They play in the Champions League. They've had European success in very recent years, and a lot of it, but Sevilla are a team that are in severe danger of getting caught out if they don't rebuild sooner rather than later. They have the oldest average age of any La Liga squad and the second oldest in the Champions League in real life. They are a team made up of some great footballers, but some footballers very much in the twilight years of their careers. Sorting their squad by ability, I think, highlights this best. They have 7 players with 3.5-star ability or above. All of them are over the age of 30. 4 of them are 34 or older. For all the success they've had in recent years, especially in the Europa League, where they've won it 6 times since 2006, this team could be in a bit of a pickle if you're not too careful. They are a team that need to transition. They need to get in younger players. And in real life, they have started to do that a little bit. They sold, unfortunately for them, 2 of their best players in Koundé and Diego Carlos. That said, they did pick up a great centre-back in Nianzou. The issue of all of this is, if we just look at the squad planner and experience matrix, you only have him in the development category. So much of their team are experienced, so much of their team are in the peak years of their career, but those years are going to be ending sooner rather than later. And while your board expectation for year one, qualify for the Champions League, the foreseeable expectations are to qualify for the Champions League as Sevilla manager. If you're going to be able to do that over the next 5 years, the rebuild has got to start sooner rather than later. Like I said, Nianzou is one of the few players with real potential in this team. This is a squad that's in an interesting spot because whilst they've got Rafa Mir and En Nasri, who are great options in the attacking area, elsewhere, limited options with limited years left ahead of them. And unfortunately, in terms of your finances, despite selling all those players in Diego Carlos and Koundé for 70+ million, there just isn't that much money to reinvest, and consistent Champions League football is going to be essential to give you that little bit of equity to, well, continue to develop this squad and rebuild it. While Sevilla aren't a team that have fallen on hard times yet, so without immediate action, I think they could struggle a lot. I think they're going to be a challenging save game. If you're wanting to rebuild in a top European league, they might be an attractive option. You get to enjoy all the new Champions League features, be featuring in a very challenging league where, let's be honest, the likes of Atleti, Barca and Real Madrid are perhaps considered that little tier above you. Maybe you can break into that top 3. Maybe you can secure Sevilla their second La Liga title in their entire history. Maybe create a dynasty. Maybe take them from being the team that always win the Europa League to being the team that always win the Champions League. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you did enjoy it. Let me know what you make of my suggestions for 5 teams to manage. As I was making this list, there were lots of teams that popped up. Maybe there's some more that I missed out that you should leave down in the comments. As I said already, if this video does well, we will definitely do a part 2. I feel like when it comes to teams to manage, it's always nice to just have save game suggestions, and hopefully this video gave you a little food for thought. Besides that, take it easy. Thank you for watching today. I'll see you all again soon. Subscribe for more FM videos. Check out the top 5 series playlist down in the description. And until next time, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you all in a bit. I'm out.